Yeah, it's a little chilly out there.
I'm eBay more than anybody.
I wasn't last one. I wasn't born in barn. Mr. Apple Jelly.
I love-
You left the door open.
Oh, my bad.
That's okay.
Ooh, you know what? There's like a little heater right behind you. We just got here, so I didn't turn that on. That might help by the time we leave.
Just like driving my school bus, it warms up when I get back to elementary school.
There you go.
Just wants you,
Next time you're done.
just makes you want to hang out, doesn't it?
Full house, we haven't had a full house in a long time.
I know.
Oh, is that golf clap worthy? Full team?
Careful, you might get a technical if you play. If you don't watch Michigan State basketball, you wouldn't.
I didn't get it. So.
Yeah. They had a player a couple weeks ago clapping. He was on the top.
Yeah, I'm like, what? How is this? What is it a technical?
Yeah, right, it's like, all right, let's call the meeting to order. It's not 7, it's just a minute before
Close enough.
we're all here, so.
We were late last time. so
We were late, we were 4 minutes late last time.
You're welcome.
Yeah. It wasn't you.
It was him, technically.
It was
We
him.
always
It
have
was-
a planning
It
commission.
was him, yes, yes.
I'll take the,
It's all right.
Yeah.
We'll let it
That's
slide.
right.
I'll take it on the chin. Okay.
All right. Do we have a motion to open public comments?
We don't need a motion.
We don't need, okay,
No, public hearing, we need a motion, but
Gotcha.
not like,
gotcha.
there you go.
Perfect, thank you. All right. Any public comments? Is there anybody online?
I don't see anybody.
Nobody's there.
All right, no public comment this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last week
Second that. Last week,
Okay.
or last month. Sorry.
I
Yeah,
was like, wait,
You knew what I meant.
I did.
Last week.
all right, first item of business,
You
review.
don't need a roll call, but you need all in favor.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's been passed. All right, next item, review the economic development plan. So I'm gonna start out with this. and Mayor, what are you looking for from this committee when you say review the?
I put it in the email, so you guys would know, but basically, we do this every year.
Yep.
Kind of like when we review so what you need to be looking at when you look at these plans. I mean, you can look at the whole plan if you want, but most of it is just, the city, you kind of stuff, the things that we want to review are the objectives and the goals. To
Okay.
make sure they're things we still want to be doing. Do they still apply? Do we want to add something new? Is there, is everybody still, is that the direction we're moving? So that's really what we're looking for, is that you just kind of read those 4 or 5 pages, and if there's something in there that just sticks out that, one, we can update it and say we completed it, which I could do that, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But it's also a nice little feather in your cap, hey, we got something done.
Right.
So,
Well, we also have to think like with COVID, there was 2 years where there's probably nothing done. I mean, there was stuff done, obviously, but you know what I mean? It was probably.
but so that's kind of
paused.
like, the big stuff is like, we want to develop and retain a talented workforce. Well, yes, that's great, but how are we gonna do that? And do we still agree with maybe ways we could do that? And is there anything that the planning commission could put on their docket to maybe start thinking about to help with that goal or objective?
Right.
Same thing with the infrastructure, develop, create, maintain, so by statute, the planning commission is in charge of the capital improvement plan. Like it's something that they task planning commission with, which makes sense, right? If the planning commission is trying to plan things around town and they're planning a big subdivision and we're gonna redo the road, we should kind of all know that maybe we shouldn't redo the road to that subdivision. is put in. Right, I mean, so I think
Right.
it's just a way to keep everybody rounded. And then, so there's some things in there that we talk about, then like just regional collaboration, like, maybe attending school board meetings, maybe attending other township meetings, so that we know what things are going on in other places. And I'm obviously doing a pretty brief overview, but those are the things that, tourism, one of the things that, that was honed in on a while back was that, we're not a tourism town like, someplace, with a big city or whatever, but we do have Sleepy Hollow State Park right here, and we have Rose Lake, and we have, there's things around us that bring people in, and we want to be able to accommodate those people and have them stay. Right? So if we fill our downtown up with, lawyers' offices, insurance offices and stuff like that, then we should probably quit promoting to Sleepy Hollow to come in and get gas and ice cream, right? I mean, so those are the kinds of things, if we make a change that we, we're not gonna promote that kind of activity, then we would change this. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Industry, we really don't have a lot of industry. When we went through the planning process to create this document, there wasn't a lot of desire to have that here, right?
Yep.
First of all, we don't have city water. It makes it very difficult to have an industry. I mean, like,
Right, right.
so it makes that hard to get an investor to do that kind of thing. But we also, that's really not what we're looking for here, was the gist of the group of people that we talked to, they like being in the bedroom community, and the industry can be somewhere else, and they can all live here and
Right.
eat here and, hang out here.
Mhm.
But, the industry can be somewhere else. I mean, that was just kind of the goal, the way that went. And creating quality of life, like creating a unique sense of identity, like our light poles match, and where we talked about outdoor seating, that's where the planning commission comes into play with that we want a unique sense of identity. We're not really sure that we want Budweiser and Coors Light's umbrellas all over downtown. We're not that. So, but that's for all of you to decide, do you want Coors Lights and Budweiser? So those are some things that are important that come around. So when I give you guys just this, this time I gave you the whole plan, because last time you guys got a little confused when I only gave you the few pages.
Right.
But the whole plan is online, everything's online, but these are the pages that I give you, because I feel like those are where you want your conversation to be.
Gotcha.
Whether we spelled something wrong.
And I went through the whole thing and I was like, okay, this is a lot to go over.
Yep. So
It's
it's
been
really
part of
the-
an
yeah.
hour, you know what I mean?
Right, and I
That's why I
spend,
asked.
40+ hours a week doing this stuff, and I get an hour with you guys
Mhm.
to give you a quick
Yeah.
brief, here's
Yep.
what we need to
Yep.
get done, and, if you leave here and don't read any of our plans or do any of those things, then I can't help you be a better planning commission person.
Right.
So, you guys have to do that kind of stuff, because I don't have that kind of time.
Right. Yep. Yep.
So, so that's really what we're looking for, and there's some action activities in here. So, what we kind of look for is, did anybody see something that really is like, we're not doing that anymore. We've all decided that's, direction we're not going. So that's kind of what we look for when we ask you guys to review these things.
So I guess starting out discussion, the first one, the goal of develop and retrain the talented workforce, so regional businesses can compete on a global basis. Is that something that back to, we are a bedroom community.
Right.
We are not gonna have industries. We're gonna have, gas stations, we're gonna have restaurants, we're gonna have, a hair salon, we're gonna have, but are we gonna have anything that requires a labor force that,
Well, and I
You
think
know what I
that's
mean?
why it talks about it being regional.
yeah.
So we want our kids to go work in that industry. So this kind of goes to the school. for
Okay,
instance.
gotcha.
Like
So-
we would work with the school to, maybe, kids could work at the city, or we could, help with a program where we teach kids, or we even help
Mm-hmm.
kids get somewhere to go to, some sort of a trade school, or, so that
I can
we,
teach them on a farm.
there you go. But, so I think that's where that came from, is that this document was also regional, like we
Yep,
wanted to
no,
help
mhm.
Shiawassee County
And that makes sense, get
with the high school.
people
with the-
trained so they
Yep,
can get jobs, so they can.
Yep.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know that we were looking at training like a workforce for
for
here,
Williamsburg.
but yeah, but we want, but we also want, people to work in our businesses here. So how do we
Yeah,
get to
right.
them, and how do we have a good workforce here? So that when somebody comes into Langsberg, they don't say, hey, it's way better if you drive downtown, East Lansing to get a pizza. This, we want people that work here that,
Well, and even trying to keep the families here,
yeah,
try to keep the kids that are in the school, try to keep them here, even though they further their education, things like that.
Make it, yeah, place people want to move.
So, I mean, that's kind of what that, some of it talks definitely about regionally, working together to find out what other people's needs are. Because if we want people to live here and work somewhere else, we kind of want to figure out what brings them back here at night and, how do we keep them? How do we attract them?
Yeah.
And how do we let those people who have employees looking for a place to live, that here's where they should stay?
And why is it worth driving an extra 20 minutes to come on,
Right.
whatever it might be, right?
But
However far it is.
that's the gist for us to continue or
right.
maintain the growth that we've had,
And that's the build that you have too, because people are coming to Langsberg from all over to play golf.
Yep.
And that's one big source right now, but then you talk about, and I'll just use future possible projects as the boat launch. If that ever goes in. Yeah, we're looking to the future, not setting what today is. We're moving forward, not setting in the past.
Right, yep. Yep. So some that I read all through this and you brought it up was the city water. Are we looking at doing anything with that? Is that,
I
have we
think
kind
that,
of said, no, we're gonna table that for a while? till
I mean,
we-"
it's not anywhere near the forefront, but
Right.
it
And that's
is.
what I'm not
Yeah,
suggesting.
so no,
Yeah.
so it is,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just something that everybody recognized as a deterrent to development.
Yeah.
And whether it's a housing development or,
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, we're not even looking at it for industry, but like,
Yeah.
for instance, trying to like even build apartments downtown, it makes it real difficult without
Yeah.
city water.
Well, it's
But
just
there
like-
are other like municipal types of water that wouldn't have to say serve the entire city. Maybe you can serve the downtown, maybe,
And I think
So-
half the problem with the city water is everybody's got wells, so they don't want city
They don't
water.
want-
Well, they felt the same way when we got the sewer.
That's true, yeah,
So, but I don't see too many people complaining now that we have
Yeah.
that, right?
yeah.
But I mean, I think that, and unless we had something happen here that, everybody had bad water or whatever, that, without grant dollars, I mean, that's a,
That's gonna
Oh,
be,
That's
it's gonna be huge.
it's a
number.
really big project.
Mhm.
And, you
Yeah.
would tear your streets up, you would,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, 'cause
so
it's not
for
just
us to
water
like,
lines.
Right.
maybe do some sort of water system if we had like a housing development go in or something like that on a smaller scale, but I mean,
You
I
gotta pick
think-
a starting point now.
until something happens that forces the city to get water, or the government says, hey, here's this program and we're gonna pay for everything if you get water, then I don't know that it's really on the docket
Okay,
from a financial standpoint.
like I said, I read it, you mentioned, I
Yep.
mean, numerous times, you mentioned it, so I just was curious.
If you live in Boston, that your water bill over there, you would never want it over here. My sister-in-law can't even hardly afford to run water over there because it's so expensive.
I don't mind our well.
I don't mind your well either.
I prefer-
And I think most people feel that way, but you see why, because as things progress,
Yeah.
fire suppression is a big deal. It's hard to get
Mhm.
fire suppression with
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
well, and you guys know that from
Well, I
trying to
know that.
develop a
Mhm.
building and,
Mhm.
if you get a use downtown that,
Requires it.
requires it, then what? What do we do? So those are things people need to know it's a weakness and it's a strength because people want a well, but it's
Right.
also a weakness for development.
Right. Yeah,
So
you
that's,
You bring up a couple of good points, a big apartment building, it'd be hard to do well, or wells for that.
right.
A big subdivision that wants to go in, 30 houses into 30 wells, it might make
Right.
sense to do something.
So
different.
those are the
Yeah.
things just to keep on the radar.
Right. What else do the people see and wonder about?
I was reading this here also on the infrastructure, on the expanding of the Daystar. How far does that reach now?
I'm not exactly sure. I do know it goes down West Street, Grand River and West Street. I don't know how far it trickles off. I feel like last summer they did something over here maybe on McClintock, but I mean, high-speed internet is a big deal.
Oh, yeah, that's why I'm asking because I can tell you where I'm at. It never shows up. And that's why I was wondering, where,
But
You
see,
know, like,
it's like,
where's the lines and, you know, things.
and these
because
are
I
the
mean,
conversations that, if we had residents say, hey, we really want some,
Right.
we need it, we gotta have, and you have a house full of people, then what do? You know,
Right.
you could go to this plan and go, hey, we recognize that we need this.
Right.
And then we could look for grants or, whatever
Mhm.
government programming is out there. So, but the group of people that, helped create this, that was one of the things they found as a weakness right now, was that we don't have that.
Right.
And so most of these came from weaknesses or strengths that we have that we want to build on.
Oh, absolutely.
Having
So-
Daystar is a strength,
Oh, for sure.
for sure,
For-
but now
yeah.
not going as far as.
Right.
If they would expand,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I was wondering where,
they're kind of
because,
picking and choosing where they want to run their wires. I
Okay.
mean, if they went down West Street, I got 4 houses there that are on Wildway. I'd
Right.
hooked them all up if they would just hook them up.
Right.
They didn't ask, they didn't come down that way. They stopped at the corner on the pole across
That's
the
why I was
road.
thinking they were
Uh-huh.
at West Street.
Yeah, they were on the pole right across, not by our drive.
Yep.
So maybe what we could look at doing was in a situation like that, or I don't know how far they go the other way, is
Mhm.
have them run a fiber to a spot and then put up a wireless access point.
Did they run one to you? If you don't come up on.
If it doesn't show up,
Daystar, as
yeah.
far as your internet provider, that wouldn't, but see, you're right there at West Street.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing where this stuff comes into play is that, we bought that piece of property over there from Mr. Singh where the storage unit is with the school. We partnered with them. And so now we have to demo it and build a parking lot, which would be really expensive. But
Right.
where he just talked about hotspot, we mentioned hotspots in our plan.
Right,
And so if we build that parking lot and add a hotspot
right.
for kids to do their homework or whatever, then now, oh, look, it was in your plan. You guys can get money for that. Because we've thought of it, we've recognized it, and it helps us make our,
Well, because I remember for years, the library was your hotspot.
yep, and they still have one.
That was the main spot for your hotspot area down here was the library. That was it.
Yep.
And that's why I was just
And people,
wondering
you'll
with
still
seeing
see
this.
cars parked.
Oh,
out there.
yeah, see them
to use
parked
the
out front or
Wi-Fi.
parked in the parking lot.
You
out
guys
back.
notice it, Dean?
Yeah, well, we, at our place too, people that stayed at our place.
Yeah.
Know if they're in Langsburg, they can park right in front of our place, because they know the password to get in.
Well, and we have it at Victor Township. We made it so it's out there and you can pick it up sitting out in the parking lot.
Subway too. So
And we
there's
have people
so
use
many-
it. Yeah, but that would be, something that, we could build on in town.
Yeah.
That would be something that people would recognize and go, hey, you can get Wi-Fi anywhere in Langsburg, but so those are just things
Yeah.
that, when we're doing
That's the thing
developments.
about it too, is people talk.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
People.
especially about that stuff,
Yeah,
type
that
of stuff,
kinda
with their
stuff.
social media and everything
Yeah.
else, they're always putting that out there.
Yep.
You
But,
know,
so when we have a development come in, the planning commission reviews it and they might say, hey, wireless hotspot's really important. Do you think that's something you could accommodate with? So those are just things to think about. And so are these. All the things in here are things to keep in mind when the developments come in. And so the whole thing is trying to play together with the master plan, the DDA plan, park and rec plan. All of these things are meant to build each other up.
Right.
And so that's why it's important that everybody tries to review these once in a while so that we don't go 10 years and not look at them.
Right.
I'll dig up, I was involved in a project, Civil Lansing, where in downtown, we did wireless hotspots on poles and speakers for music. And so that was an interesting project. 'Cause we did wireless, we did wired, we did tied them all together by wireless, so, yes. Yeah.
Slightly changing the subject. In the industry activities, what is Proline? Sorry, I just don't know.
Hang on, I gotta look.
It says, look for ways to support new industry in and around Langsburg, such as Proline. I assume obviously it's a company, but what
I
kind?
think there was, do you know what it is?
Yeah, Proline, they have, it's an agricultural pelletizing facility. So what they do is they take lime and gypsum and other type of aggregates, and they put them into this pellet form, which is just easier to
Yeah.
the way they explain it is that the new technology for farming, it just really it makes it so they can really very specifically apply those types of
Right,
materials to the field.
And I think that what this was like a way to attract companies to the area, like Proline, which must have been a project at the time we wrote this.
Right.
And those are things that, now, what was that 10 years? That is exactly why, this is, something that you could, instead of put a specific company in there, you could say, something else.
Just delete past.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
also the tourism, it talks about movies in the park, all this stuff. I know that that's not our focus or whatever, but has anybody stepped up or said anything about that at least with movies in the park? Or trying to anything? Because I was curious, has anybody even said anything about anything?
my staff is working on it without any
I'm-
direction from anybody who wants.
I
us
know,
to.
I would jump
That's
in,
how I
but
get
I'm on
myself in trouble.
Heaven
Do it-
forbid.
I'm on
I know,
so
I do
many
stuff
other
without anybody's
things.
permission, I'm sorry.
No, I'm on so many other things. I'd be like, oh, I'll jump in, but that's just another thing I don't wanna grab onto.
Well, I've been waiting for somebody to, hey, what are you guys gonna do about movies in the park? But we haven't heard, so.
We discussed it at the LBCA and I said, we're hoping that somebody will just jump on, so they all know. too.
We are thinking about reaching out to the school and the NHS students and maybe, something like that, so that like a group does it.
Yeah,
And that way it would be, one person wouldn't be,
solely in charge.
Yeah.
I get it.
and then it wouldn't be like if somebody leaves and it's, so.
And it's still.
Yeah,
I
we
get it.
think that if there's a program or like, say the cheerleaders, the Girl Scouts or whatever, somebody that, obviously we would do a lot of, help the city like we always have with it, but that's kind of what we're working on in my office.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't know there's anything else. I mean, I see the stuff, but it's still stuff that we should be working on.
So is this something we could put back on the agenda for next time?
Every time, whatever, I mean,
Let's-
it's just
let's-
that like one of my requirements
Yeah, no, yeah.
to keep us RRC certified is for you guys to actually go through it and say, make a motion that you're happy with it, that you feel like, it's the right direction, that,
Yep.
or you
Yep.
make a motion that says, we'd like to review this more thoroughly and make some changes. The RRC people will be happy with that too. So those are the, that's basically what they're looking for from us.
Want these plans to be as interconnected as possible.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep, and that has really come a long way since we started with the RRC process, is that, we would have something in one plan that didn't agree with another, and so now we're trying to make them all go towards some of the same goals. You want them to all be,
Going in the same direction?
I know, consistent, same direction, yeah.
All right, so, because I would like to, now that we've kind of gone through and we're trying to discuss it, part of this is me. I'll get home and tomorrow I'll go, it'd be nice to do this on that, all right? So maybe if we can come back next meeting and have
Which is-
further
yeah.
discussion.
Yep.
I mean,
I'm sure it's something we can bring it up every time if we see something. I mean, that's the whole point of it. Yeah.
When do you have to have the finalized information in for this
I think as long as we have doing something with it.
with the RRC, right?
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I mean, Christopher, I can show him this meeting and show him we went through it and,
Uh-huh.
because we tape everything, so,
Right?
I mean, I think if he wants anything else, he'll let me know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I obviously think that if you guys want to review this every,
Right.
you keep it on your plate. It's like, this
Yeah.
is what we're working towards, and that,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, again,
I need things
Well,
right.
if you
in
need a
front of me.
motion,
So,
either
yeah.
way. I would make a motion that we accept it as it is, with changes possibly to come in the future after our review. When we bring it back up.
A monthly review.
I would
I
second that.
that, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
staying on top of it is great.
we have a motion to accept it as is, but we will review and possibly change it as we move forward. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
I think that's all they want, really, is people to keep looking at these.
Right.
They don't want you to actually just look at it once a year. They're just forcing us to look at it once a
Well,
year.
you always want to try to move forward anyway.
So I think that's
You
what,
know,
that's the
yeah.
intent, is that they just want these to be right in front of you, Dina, so that you do know,
Yeah.
So I'd like to put it on the agenda for next time.
Sure.
Now, maybe we do it 2 more times and go, okay, we're beating the dead horse for 2022, let's,
But when we review, if we review it throughout the year,
yeah,
and
right.
then we get to the new review period next year, we may have already made some
Right.
updates and changes.
Yes, yes,
Took it to city council
Yes,
and,
yes.
DDA and said, hey, everybody agree with this?
Yeah.
And that's why we did that with the park plan. It went
Right.
to everybody. And
It's-
so,
I would like to reiterate what Paul is saying is as a planning commission, you probably don't realize how much power you really have. As far as what your plans, as you look at them, is moving forward, the city forward. Because city council looks at what the committees present and what they recommend. And most of the time, not every, but most of the time, city council will accept a plan from the planning commission, the DDA, or whomever, because it's been reviewed, it's been looked at several times, and they don't have to step through that hoop too.
Right.
So that's the whole thing. With a positive recommendation for something, council will probably hang right with you, but also on a negative, they'll hang with you too, because they'll see the same points you do.
let me agree with you, and maybe say it a little bit different, is we've been very reactive
Right.
on this committee. We've had things come to us and we've said, oh yeah, that sounds good. What you're saying is we can be more proactive and make recommendations and. walk
Right,
through it.
and that's the whole thing.
Right.
Things
Yep,
you
yep,
see and
no, I-
think about, you
Yep.
can put them into action. This is where it starts.
Okay. Public hearing, that's the second one. Schedule a public hearing for expert lawn and snow. Do we really need to?
What is this gonna be going over? Is this
Yeah,
going over what they're still,
The contract?
the contract because it had, or what we had set up before?
is-
right, so
Because it
originally,
is
This is the yearly
expired,
review.
right?
well, you guys, when you originally approved that, made a motion within the approval of the special land use,
Right,
that we would review it in a year.
that's what I was,
But reviewing it means we need to actually schedule a public hearing and then,
Yep.
and then if you guys give us some stuff you would like to review, maybe we could get some comments
I
on.
don't want to, because I'm gonna be like the main person to go.
There were
Well,
issues
that's
with
where I got a
sound.
picture here that I got a question on.
I have a lot of little things,
So-
but
So if I remember right, the questions we had and what we needed to review were the sound and those types of things, right?
I don't think the review was
use-
specific to the sound.
the
It-
The
It
use-
said,
the-
is this, but I mean, we, at the
Lighting,
time,
the
the sound
fence.
was a big deal.
Right, but that was.
And the
right,
paving
lighting.
was a big deal, but
yeah,
I'm not sure that that is the end of what we want to review.
Well, and that's why,
Right.
so those were the things we talked about, but as I understand it, there are things they have not done
Correct.
properly or finished, or those, will that be part of this review also?
Absolutely, whatever you
Make a
guys.
motion
Motion
I
to
figured-
schedule a public
figured it
hearing
would,
for the
but-
next meeting.
Second.
So,
and should we discuss any of that now or discuss it all then at public hearing?
Probably best to wait till the public
Yep.
hearing.
That's what I
Give them an
assumed,
opportunity
yeah.
to be here and,
And-
Yeah.
give information.
but if there are
Absolutely.
things that you guys have concerns about, you could talk
Yeah.
to Michael or myself or send me an email and we'll
Yep.
make sure that we kind of write something up to address some of that stuff and talk about it, because otherwise
Yeah.
we might get here and go, okay, we're gonna need another special.
So do we have a list of the issues that they're having? And did I miss it? in there?
No.
No, we
Okay.
don't even
Because
really
we
want to
just
get on
need-
that right now.
No,
We
it's
need a
just-
second.
Right now, we're not talking.
we, no,
I second,
second,
you
yeah.
second
Okay.
right away.
We need a
Yeah.
vote.
But
It's
there
like,
will
bam.
be, there will be, Jeff.
Okay,
It'll be available.
because I don't want to have
Public
a,
hearing.
to your point of your guys'
Yeah.
motion, I don't want to have a hearing if we don't know jack crap
Sure.
about what's going
Right,
on.
Yeah.
Sure, right.
So,
Agreed.
I mean,
One of them was.
Understand what you're
sorry.
saying.
Yeah.
Understand what you're saying.
The basic bottom line of it is we scheduled a 1 year
no, I get it,
review,
I get it,
and
yeah.
that's
And
what we gotta do.
Well, but I mean, you're not always gonna know, I mean, because some neighbor might come in with an issue, or somebody might come in and say they love it and it's perfect,
Right.
so when we're scheduling the public hearing, because we want to know what everybody out there is thinking. You know, what we have seen maybe isn't bothering the neighbors. Maybe it isn't in violation of the ordinance. Maybe it's all fine.
Yeah.
But you don't know what people are gonna say, and the requirement of the special land use was to hold a public hearing. And you guys made that requirement.
Yep.
You wanted to do that. And I mean, I don't know if you wanna talk about why you wanted to do that at the time, but
No, I
that's,
think we had good reason.
We were concerned with the neighbors.
Yeah.
right, and so that's what we're
And we
looking
want
for
more.
feedback from, right? Is the
Yeah.
neighbors and, you know.
And
If
it's- I don't
anybody
think
says
we're all
anything
good.
to you guys and they, you know, there's something you want us to have ready to see if it works with the ordinance or not, or if it's, you know, something, and we might not have an end all at the end of the public hearing. We might go,
Right.
okay, we have a few more questions or whatever it is you guys. So it's basically just that, to gather information. That's what that one's for, Jeff. So you,
Okay.
I mean, don't really need to know all the problems because you just, maybe there are none. But it's really to
Right.
gather information that night
But
and
I've
then,
heard there are.
and. but it-
I mean, I've
right, but
heard
it
there
gives
are.
them the chance to
Yeah.
be
And I
here
get that.
to
Yeah.
talk about it and review it,
Defender
or,
is the
I get
defender, whatever.
you know,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So Mike made a
All right.
motion, Anthony.
All in
seconded.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Okay, so to schedule public hearing, it should be a roll call.
Should- All right,
I'm trying.
go ahead. No, you're fine. I'm trying to. Go ahead.
And we're gonna hold it, March. Something, first.
Third?
No, that's in council.
Oh, yeah.
41st.
March 21st, okay. At
Exactly the
I was
same
gonna
as
say.
today.
that is
That's
fine.
kind of scary.
All right, so roll
Everything
call.
seems to be there.
Culpepper,
Yes.
Ridsdale.
Yep.
Fulper,
Yes.
Epistoli,
Yes.
Judd,
Yes.
Freidenberg,
Yes.
Kiesler.
Yes. Okay. Review the capital improvement plan.
So again, that's, you know, something that comes up this time of year because it is, I mean, it's budget time for us at the city. So this is something that you could review as the planning commission throughout the year at certain points of the year. And then bring recommendations to the city or something like that. But at this, you know, probably the plan itself is not gonna change right now because we're later in the season, but it's a good time to look at it, review it. And then we're gonna start, you know, using some of this stuff for our budget. It's also a good thing to know what's in it. So page 22 has just a summary of the items in it. And then, you know, there's language all through it explaining what some of these items are, you know, McClintock Park was on it. And that's done. So yippee, we got something knocked off there. Bates Park is on there for looking at the flooding and that kind of stuff. We don't have a date on when that was gonna be done, but if it's in the, in here, it's 5 years or less typically is what you're looking at. Citywide plan to repair or replace annually sidewalks. Buildings, we wanted to demo storage buildings, those are gone. Want to build a new cemetery shed. Want to continue to work on our storm and sanitary drains, but we did complete that project. So that 1,235,800 is done. Road, Shiawassee near cemetery to Scioto, that's gonna change because we just updated the capital improvement plan that we brought to you guys a while ago, 6 months ago, from C2AE. And I mean, that probably isn't as high a priority, and the dollars might change on that. I'm sure it's more than 15,000. So, in 2022, we're gonna buy a new police vehicle, 23 radios. We're talking about replacing the backhoe in 2025. Dump box replacement, we're kind of continuing to update the old 89s. You guys know how old our equipment is. We have a 1989. We have the bank mower, so we want to replace that. It's a big machine that does the banks at the sewer. They want to replace that with a newer version of, and it helps with the roadsides and stuff like that. Additional grasshopper, which is a lawnmower. DPW vehicles, we're looking at a new pickup, which we did just replace one. Well, actually, we kept the other one. We did get a new pickup, but it's used. A used bucket truck. We have an old bucket truck that's really needs to be replaced.
It's a bucket.
It helps the guys with like doing the light bulbs and the banners and stuff downtown.
Mhm.
So,
Well, that way we don't have to try or get somebody else to come in and do it.
yep, so replace the generator at
Ladders
the
on
main lift
truck.
station. I mean, that was, looked like it was 21. We didn't get that done, I don't think.
Which were.
The main lift
The main
station.
Right.
And then like we wanted to create a citywide plan to start working on trees. One of the things that is probably important about trees to the planning commission is that when people do developments or stuff like that, really, you're not supposed to plant between the sidewalk and the road unless you have the city's permission. So if you go through town and you see something planted in there and it grows up into the wires, then it suddenly becomes consumers' power and our problem.
And people get mad. when
And then
come
they
by.
get mad when the, and still we get calls every day, well, that tree is between the sidewalk and the road, which probably is, a lot of ones were, but if people are planting them there now,
Right.
they shouldn't be without our permission, because once that happens, they become our responsibility.
I did do it when I moved in, but I didn't know, but I trim mine every year, so.
But if you move,
Shame
I
on you.
know.
but I'm just, but
I'll
you,
take it out.
She'll transplant.
I will.
but people don't know, but they are the
I know.
first
No,
to
I didn't
call
know.
when something happens in that area that needs to be taken care of, so.
So one thing I didn't see in here, and kind of went through it, there were a number of things like the police vehicle, and this may be beyond our purview of what we need to know, right? The police vehicle and the pickup truck, and it said, hey, you budget $20,000 a year for just general vehicle replacement. right?
Uh-huh.
So you have a bucket that has money coming in this way, but it's going out there. Where does that stand for some of these?
It should be in here, there is
I
a,
looked.
Yeah, it is.
Well, like,
Is it? I
yeah.
looked.
There's a
and I couldn't
breakdown.
quite-
no, they're in here, it's broke
Okay.
down in here.
It showed it where I have it for each year.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in there. Each,
Okay.
like, there are these pages back here, storm drains has
Yep.
100,
Yep.
So
I must have just missed them. I looked
there
at
are
this
some
myself.
places like that. I'm hoping to be able to use our new accounting software to start putting it in there, which would be really helpful. 'Cause we've really never had this. This is something we just kind of been working on, trying to get it set up. We would say, oh, we put money away for sidewalk, and then it just sits in the general fund. And so I've been trying to make sure it gets in a bucket for sidewalks.
Right, yeah, and that bucket's always gonna be.
And it's not that truck.
It's not the bucket truck. So again, that's just sort of an exercise that we need to do annually, but, there's a lot more to the capital improvement plan than that chart I just went over. So you could read it, if you see something in there, or why is this even in here, or, we had a group of people that helped create this, so that's how it ended up in there, but this thing, it needs to be a living document every year, so it needs to change, and 2018, I already need to update it.
Back to the earlier discussion, as we look at other things that we can do as part of this.
Same thing, yep,
Well, but it'll affect the budget. and
absolutely.
We have ideas.
Yep.
We can't decide where the budget goes, but we have ideas of where the budget is. Yeah, it might come out. So do we need to,
Same thing, yep.
do we have a motion to how we want to handle do we want to have, anybody have any questions, want to go through anything, discussion? I went through it, looked, other than that one question, looked pretty straightforward.
I'll make a motion to approve the capital improvement plan.
I'll second.
Okay. We can just do A or nay.
Mhm.
All in favor? A?
Hey,
All approved? All opposed? A? All right, and passed. All right. Next item, one driveway for single family residential.
Yeah, so we kind of touched on this last month, and just with the ZBA cases that happened last year. We had two that were about installation of the second driveway for residential parcel. So we kind of wanted to pull together something for you guys to take a look at, some different examples with some other communities too. Found that a lot of places either A, does what Williamsburg currently does, and limits it to one per residential, per platted lot, per residential lot. A lot of the bigger jurisdictions do that. Grand Rapids, Lansing, Detroit, they all limit it to one. But you did find some examples of other communities that provided some exemptions. These are the ones that I provided here. Also found too that a lot of times this is just entirely taken out of zoning. It's done by either a code ordinance or it's left up to a city engineer to determine, is this feasible given the location? They'll look at traffic patterns and get way more in depth than we ever.
And I
really would.
think this started with our engineers.
Okay, yeah,
When we were doing curb streets and stuff like
Yep.
that, the more driveways you get, the less effective those become. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the engineers could make comments on it, but I do
yes.
remember that being a topic of that conversation.
I'm sure that's the case.
C2A.
C2 is what I thought.
And that's something too, that if we wanted to get really, depends on how in-depth we want to get with this. If we want to provide for a simple exemption, I think the main question last year was, okay, people on corner lots, if you are, the one issue that we ran into is a person that wanted to put a pole barn. They wanted to have access to that pole barn. Current ordinance doesn't allow them to do that because they already have a driveway on a different street. So do we want to provide more exemptions for people like that? Or do we really want to look and, open this up more? The communities that I found, this Hudsonville, the first one, they did a pretty good job of just of putting out some different situations. Is it a local street versus a major thoroughfare? How far away are these going to be from a lot line versus, how and how much frontage does each parcel have? They get into discussions of circle drives, allowing for that in some situations. We don't really touch on any of that with our current ordinance. And then, on the right side, this is what the current section, the current Lanesburg ordinance says. We're pulling from this very bottom part, that just says single family residential lots were permitted no more than one ingress egress access onto a public or private road.
So something that maybe I should know, maybe I should. The Hudsonville and Berkeley, they all used 100-foot. What is the normal for Lanesburg?
Glad you asked about that. It varies depending on the zoning districts.
I know they're not going to all be the same, but.
They're not.
We have a
And-
chart right in front of the zoning ordinance
Okay.
that tells you what you have to have for main, in order to build a house, you have to have 100 square foot or 50.
Exactly.
So our original plats, some of those are 25.
Mhm,
And the people actually can still build on them
mhm.
because they're original plat. So if you have two houses 25 feet apart and each of them have two driveways.
They're all going to be driveway. I mean.
Well, I mean, it just
Yeah.
becomes problematic.
It does. It really does. So you have to take that into consideration too, that even though our current ordinance has these standards for different residential districts,
Right.
to go from 200 for an RO, which is your almost outskirts of town, there's very few parcels in the city that are RO, down to 50 feet with the high density residential. But yeah, you got to take into consideration where the plats, what were all these lots platted with?
I mean, look at that. That's,
What
those
is the standard?
were building plats.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
and there's still original plats out there that are 25 feet.
yeah. So, I mean,
We got one build on one on Grant Street. If you want to see what it looks like. Went in there sideways. Isn't it?
Yep.
yeah, I don't know if any of you folks have been to Hamtramck at all, but just outside of Detroit, nobody, all those houses, nobody has any driveways there. Everybody runs the street. It is chaos, absolute. But that's just because it was
There's no
developed,
room.
before people really had cars. So
Well, some of the houses, you can reach out your window and touch. them.
exactly.
Yep.
How flexible do we want to be with this regulation? I guess.
So let me ask another. And I don't know if it was the planning commission last time or if it was the city council or there was a discussion about cars parking on yards and backyards and all
City
that.
council, we just brought that up.
Yeah, how does that, I mean, I know they're two different things, but how does one affect the other? Or do you think they don't?
So, I mean, they, the code ordinance that I think Dan, sent to city council really was about parking, making sure people are parking in the driveway and making sure that, and setting it up for a civil infraction process. Like,
Right, yeah, Dan was looking for it, so he had legs to stand on.
Yeah,
if you
for sure.
will.
Start ticketing folks.
Yep,
And,
yep.
this is something that too, you could roll this entire section into that if we wanted to. I don't know if there's really a huge benefit to that or not. I mean,
And I'm not suggesting, I'm just thinking
yeah, I think they probably go hand in hand to some
to
extent.
some degree.
Yeah, just given, I think the difference really is just about where are actual vehicles being parked today versus how are we setting up these lots so that they don't become an issue for Dan in the
Right.
future, right? So,
So let me ask you this,
Yeah.
if it was general code.
Yeah.
Which would be like the ordinances that the city has, not then is there any chance for variance then? See, I don't think
it
there
would
is.
take it out of that process. It really would take it out
Right,
of
but so
that.
I'm saying that's why it's here.
Yeah.
Is because
Right.
there is an opportunity to maybe say, well, what if it's in the two, I mean, because if you're gonna make it a code, no, not a double driveway.
Yeah.
But on here, if you have 200 feet of road frontage,
And
which,
you have a pole barn on it.
right,
same lot
you
that you
could, there
was-
could
Yeah.
be situations where you could maybe make it adjustable, right?
Exactly.
Where if we kick it to the city code, it's definitely not gonna have that opportunity.
Right.
That's all I'm trying
It's a
to
really good
point
about
out
that.
here,
Really
is
good
that
point about
Thank
that.
you.
when you move it that way, I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying that it does, like, then this discussion kind of becomes mute,
Mhm.
Right.
right? Unless we make an ordinance change.
And then, yeah, it wouldn't even been brought to the ZBA.
Right,
It would just-
we would just give them a ticket and been done with it and. So there are, but I think that what we have to think about is like Hamtramck. No, we're not Hamtramck, but we're also not Victor Township,
Right.
right? So we don't have a lot of houses that are, 200 feet off the road with a pole barn in the back. I
Yeah.
mean, we're talking about small city lots that, not necessarily encouraging pole barns.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes, right.
And so, that's where you gotta start to think about how do all these things fit together? I mean, if you wanna say, well, I don't see any problem with that, well, there's a reason why when a person lives at Scenic Lake and they can't build a pole barn, they wanna build it in our town.
Or
If
their
we allow-
city storage.
But
Or
if
for
we
their
allow two
business
driveways,
storage, I know.
now suddenly they would have that opportunity here. Where right where they live, there's not an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So you gotta think about it big picture wise, that it's not just, everybody would love to say, you know what, you can go ahead and have that, that's great. And then, 20 years when he's not there anymore and somebody's running a, lawnmower repair shop out of it with a separate driveway, and now, look what we did.
I have a question, same off, but same. With the, expert lawn and snow, is that too technically where they are?
Well, they have a special use.
So I would have to look
They
at
have
it.
especially used to drive on the curbs and go over the
Oh, no.
drains.
Good point. I missed where you were going.
No, I know, I'm just,
Yeah.
because they have the two drives, but
Right.
I don't know.
That one drive rule only applies to residential
Okay.
uses.
Yep.
So that's the one, it is, as soon as it gets out of residential use, rule doesn't
Okay.
apply anymore. But
Got it.
brings up the question too, though, about folks that own double lots, right?
Right.
Currently, joint ownership, it's one.
Yeah.
And that's how we've interpreted it. So do we want more flexibility?
And that's a case where I could see having a second driveway.
I got
All right.
5 acres across the road.
But if you do that,
The only way you get to the backyard is have another driveway.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and I
the
think
there's
that's
5
what we're
acres
saying
there.
is that we're trying to find out how could we be flexible, but at the same time,
Be stern.
not promote,
Yeah.
the building of pole barns and, extra driveways for those kind of things, because we're really just a small residential community that we don't have a lot of need for pole barns and,
we want that second lot sold in the house, but.
absolutely.
We don't want Pole barn.
And that's, I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's what we're thinking, right? Is that, you know,
And don't get me wrong, I'm not advocate, I'm just saying, if that's the case, then that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the thing about-
right, so I just feel like we need to keep that theme in mind when we're trying to figure out, you know, we don't all have to agree, we just have to figure out what, we do have to agree on what route we're taking for the city, right? It's like,
Yeah.
what
yeah.
do we want to do for the
Yeah, you
city?
don't want a 50-foot house with 2 driveways. right in front of it.
I would assume this conversation is based on the fact that people have more than one drive, but they also park on the front of the street all the time. So I question, how are we gonna protect our streets? With people parking in front of their houses instead of their driveway.
Well, isn't that legal to park in front of their hut if they don't have a curb
For part of the time.
part of the time? Okay,
Yeah, it can't from 2, was it?
2 to 5 or 2
Well,
to
we can
5.
only enforce it on curb streets, I think, so.
Ah.
But yeah, so that's part of the, you know, problem, but
I'm not
that's
disagreeing
different
with
than
you,
this
no.
problem, but yeah.
Well,
There's
the
nothing-
house that burned, if you see in the backyard of where that one was all rutted up.
Oh, yeah, that
You would
was-
understand the driving in the yards.
I heard
Yeah.
about that.
That was pretty bad. It still is. There's
It's still
parked
there, because they
yeah.
still park there. So,
And that one did have 2 drives, technically. They had the one up front and then
Technically,
the one on the back side.
Correct.
So
And
they
what
cut
that
a curb for
that
that
brings
when
the
they didn't
question,
cut
what
a
do we
curb
do
for the
about
other
it?
one. That
Right.
What do
doesn't make
what do
any
we
sense.
do about people
Exactly.
that are breaking the ordinance?
Well, so here's the problem, is that I heard you guys last month say, you know, well, there's a lot of people that have 2 drives. Well, there's this thing called non-conforming. You know, it's legal non-conforming. So somebody built a house before this went into our ordinance. You know, they get they get to have 2 driveways.
Okay,
But somebody builds a house right now, part of the approval process is, no, you can't have 2 driveways. So,
so we can really only go after the ones that's put in a second driveway after the ordinance.
correct.
Right, it's
Yeah.
kind of like your back parking lot, like it doesn't need to be paved yet, because technically nobody's
Because we
doing
were-
anything.
Yeah, we were grandfathered in. Yeah.
Yeah, but once something's done, then it's gonna be done.
Let's- and I don't mean to be devil's advocate, a lot of times it seems like I am, but let's go to the house that burned, right? They have a driveway in the front, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
house isn't very far off the road, so
right.
the driveway couldn't be very long, so you probably only get 1 car.
Now they could get 2.
Could they
Yeah.
get 2?
Yeah.
What happens if they had 2 adults and a kid that all had a car?
They'd be
Yeah,
parking on
live
the
somewhere
street.
else.
Yeah, okay, I mean, that's,
But I mean, but that happens, right? If you live in East
Yeah.
Lansing,
Yeah.
right? If you have
Yeah.
a small house in East Lansing or you
Yeah.
have an apartment in East Lansing,
Yeah.
you gotta figure out your parking situation.
right. I mean, but that house isn't,
And in East
and
Lansing-
again, I'm just.
in East
Well, a lot of
Lansing, you
people
don't
just
leave your
tell me,
car on the
"Well,
lot
buy a
either."
car."
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but I
But
mean,
you knock it off.
I feel like, you
I'm
know,
waiting for the state to give me that money back, you know?
we
for-
can't accommodate every
Yeah.
parking situation, but when people move in, you don't know how, I mean, what if it's a single mom of 4 teenagers, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And they're quadruplets and they all turn 16, you know, they gotta have car. But I mean, we can't take care of, we can only protect, you know, the
Yeah.
infrastructure that we
Yep.
have.
Yep.
And so we have to say, this is the rule now because, you know, it's just what works.
Well,
But-
if you use that house as an example, as you said, it's a duplex.
Right. Yeah, so. what do
So
you
it's
do?
more than a single family, according to the ordinance, single
Right.
family. So the
Yeah.
duplexes on West or on
So
Doyle Road
duplex
would
can have
also
a
have to
second
do
drive.
that.
Duplex could have a second drive.
Yep,
Right.
because it's more than a single family.
There are other requirements than just what this section 402
Right.
said.
Right.
Anyway, this is just the access.
I think we all
requirements, so.
agree that we want some flexibility, but I think we all think that we also want to maintain our small
I agree.
town charm and not, you know.
But you've
Well,
gotta have that
Which
possibility. of
leads
the
to my
variance.
question, or my question
Well,
earlier,
here's the
what
question I
can we
have
do
is-
for the ones that are breaking it now?
Oh, we can ticket them. We already have.
Oh, okay,
My
all
brick
right.
house.
See,
across the
I
road
didn't know
from
that.
us, 5 acres.
That's my question.
Well, we
And
went through the process and we were
chose to,
able
because I'm
to
the property
ticket them
owner,
based on
could I
an
cut a
ordinance
driveway right
violation.
across the
Okay.
front of my yard?
We're
go
working
in the
on
back,
one right
and it's
now.
a
We've
circle
sent them
drive, not
a
circle,
letter and
but
told
an
them,
extension off my
You
main
got
drive.
this, and this, and if you
And
don't,
then I have
then
a
you're
pole
gonna
barn
start
back
getting
All right, good,
ticketed
good.
and then.
Well, it's just good to
And
know.
then
it's
they'll
on
take
the
it to the
agenda.
judge
Yeah.
and then the
Well,
judge
yeah,
will,
exactly,
everybody will
but
have to work
that's-
out whatever's gonna work out, but we have, you know, we've done some work with some of that and,
All right, good.
you know, it's just the other problem is, you know, It's hard to monitor it, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, we know when somebody builds a house and they do it, and then they go, well, we're just gonna drive on the yard then. You know, I mean, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
They don't have an actual driveway, they're just driving across their yard. What do I do?
You say what you can do. You can
Right,
have crappy looking lawn, but
but like that guy that was here, he could he could legally build that pole barn and just drive across the yard. So that's, you know, we're trying to fix some of that so that it meets what we're trying to do.
Well, I just had that thought and question, just so we're zoning now, when you're saying one drive, what if a person had enough room where they could actually make a drive extension off their main drive and make it around? Is that two drives or is that one?
So
That's
let me tell you,
It's
the
one
story
access, right?
when we first
That's-
moved to
Yeah,
Langston.
no road access, you'd be coming off the one
A
drive
single
that you had.
access, it would follow the ordinance, one single access is split up.
Yeah, but it's about access points to public roads. So
So
I
me
would
too.
probably classify those two. But if it had two different points where it touched a road.
So when we first moved to Langsburg, it was on Woodbury, it was not, it wasn't in Langsburg proper, right? But when they developed the property we bought, they had three driveways coming out to Woodbury, right on that corner by the sportsman's club, right? We happened to be the second house to build. There were six lots, right? And the driveway ordinance in Shiawassee County says you can only have two houses per driveway. Right? We were the second house, trying to build a second driveway, they wouldn't let us do it. Because they said, no, it's not, at that point, the guy that developed it said, I got this all approved before, and they changed, right? So what they ended up doing was agreeing to put in a 100-foot private road, that then the driveways then came off of that private road. Was what they, so only one, so back to what you guys were just saying, if you just put a private road in and then split it, one to go to the house, what, I mean, is that two, or is that a one access and two? I mean,
Well, what if
we
you-
did it legal.
That's when
There's
you
duplex
call
back
Mike
there.
and
Now
say,
you-
I need your help.
Well, we have something about private roads in there.
I'm
I
sure we have
think.
something about private roads. there. I've never
Yeah.
done one for the city. I've done a few in the county, but
It would be really hard here to have.
I
that,
discourage
'cause we're just
everybody
so
from doing
small.
private
Right,
roads.
no,
It's
and
just,
I know that example wasn't great, but it was, yeah.
it's, private roads are, you gotta maintain them yourself.
Yep.
So in the future, it's just, it
Did it for
is
20 years.
not a good thing
Mhm.
for, I would never want to live off private roads. It's, and the potential for conflicts with neighbors there, it's high.
No, mine's more with consumers power, they think they can park there all the time.
Put a gate up.
We're gonna find out.
Oh, I thought it was like one of your renters or something.
No, he owns that white house there and he pulls that truck up there and parks because he's working the graveyard shift or whatever and leaves it there. Yeah, I paid for the asphalt. Now what's the consumer's gonna pay for?
Mhm.
They don't have an easement.
Okay, so,
always be 4 tires missing in the morning.
Oh, there's 8 of them on there.
Oh,
That
8 of
truck
them,
is a
there you go.
big truck, it's one of them boom trucks. Maybe we ought to confiscate it.
There you go. One of the things I liked about what you provided was and I'm not saying it should be 100 feet, but, okay, anything less than this,
It's a parameter.
it's a parameter, it's a, whatever we decide that number should be. Is it 25, is it 50, is it 150, is it 200? Don't know, right? But I like that, say, okay,
My thought with that is, the requirements vary depending on the district, right? So at between 50 to 200 feet, maybe we come up with some kind of multiplier based on what that minimum is for the district. If it's 50 feet, you're required to have 75 feet before you have a second drive. Something like that. And if we didn't want to do the actual feet, another option too is just to say, hey, in corner lots, because I think that's really the biggest one, is where you can have a reasonable layout for a corner lot where you might need to have 2 access points. Maybe that's where we provide the exemption, and it's just say no second drive for any other situation. With a corner lot, then you could do it as long as you had X amount of feet frontage. Those are just some thoughts I have.
Can we all come up with ideas and then bring it back next month?
This isn't something we have to rush into. I just
Right,
wanted to show
and I
you.
think that, what
So-
else you guys need to just drive around and look at where it would be problematic, where it would be okay, and maybe think about, what size house it is, or if it's in a subdivision, or if it's, you know, in the commercial district. I mean, I think there's just gonna be like different situations where it could be flexible.
This is my head spinning.
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
mean, no, that's fine, because you're right, it could all matter where.
My driveway is, goes into like widening, so 2 cars.
It's migrated.
Well, but I do think that there's still gotta be a variance though, to be able to try. It's like
Right,
with my property,
Yeah.
because it goes between the 2 roads. So if I wanted to put another garage, I got no way to get from my
right,
driveway to a garage behind me,
right.
where I would have to put it, you know, and things like that.
But you'd have access from the other.
From the other road, but it would still
We'd
be,
have to go around his house to get to it.
which I
Well, we
don't
have it right
care,
here
but
on
you know what I
William
mean?
Street. If
But
you
at
look
that
the
point,
house
that would
with the
be
garage on the
2
back.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so in a
Technically,
way, it
two.
may possibly you can
Right,
work
across
that,
the
if there's
road.
2
Yeah.
different streets, you can have.
But it's
two
Right,
garages.
and that's what I'm getting at, you know, not just the corner
Yeah,
lot, thing, but
that's-
the
Snow
other,
coming off of that
I actually
side,
really
snow
like
coming
the,
off the front side,
you
and
know.
This Berkeley, the
it
last,
did
the
come
last,
in
this number
we
3,
should have
Yeah.
never allowed
sacred
access.
parcels,
I hadn't- I
100
hadn't
feet or
thought
more
about
width
that,
at a corner
But it's
lot.
one of those anomalies, it's like, you don't
You
think
know,
about.
it gives you
like,
the
that
option
shouldn't have
for a
happened.
circular drive, but it says that you can have a second separate driveway approach if a garage access is.
Right.
needed. I kind of like that little
and
section.
that's what I was getting at, because I read
Specific
those
reason-
earlier. is that
Specific reason for a
specific,
drive, yeah.
Yeah,
You know.
to me, yeah, I agree. If it was 2 different roads, I don't see why you couldn't have a drive on each road.
If you felt.
If it was
I'll
single
just give you,
dwelling,
I'll give you an idea though.
Okay,
And I just pointed it out to Jeff, if you think on William Street, so you got the alley there
yeah,
and that's William Street, right? That goes-
Williams
Yeah.
is there.
Yep, and then alley, and then the guy has a garage that faces the alley and a driveway that faces.
Right next to the vet.
Big
Yeah.
green house.
So it does,
Isn't
I
it
mean,
Randall?
No,
but
Brianna lives on
if
the
you
other
look
side.
at it,
I'm trying to.
It's vet.
it's
It
a
was,
double story, it's right next to the white fence, right?
Is that where Dar used to
Well,
be?
it does, yeah.
Okay, where
So-
Dar used to,
Right.
okay.
Oh, okay, okay, I-
All right, no, I was gonna say.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how those do a nice little
Yep.
thing.
no, I was getting all mixed up. I drive my bus routes down right down up there. I'm going,
But
what?
so now the thing is
I
that
didn't
you
really get
also
a
have,
picture,
you know,
though.
you have a snow issue,
Right,
right?
right.
So we got people, we got a guy pushing snow off of that back into the alley where there's no place for it to go.
Yeah.
And had we just not allowed that access from that side, would have been a big difference.
From which side?
They don't have
That
access.
side,
No,
because it should have had to face the road.
the garage should have gone out, so you
Correct.
should have flipped the house. over.
Well, no, so I think the garage was added after like,
Oh, and-
But they don't have a drive on railroad, do they? There's not a drive for that house on Railroad Street.
yeah, there is, there's a
Yeah,
drive.
there's 2 drives. There's a
Yeah.
drive on the front of the house and then the garage is.
Oh, I
on
thought
the-
they just parked
The
the
garage
cars
is
right
on
in
the
front of the
alley.
house on the side.
No,
There's an alley, on the alley, there's a garage that you can pull into. from the
Okay.
drive.
Michael, so with that.
I'll have to take a good look
I
at
mean,
that.
this is just, because I don't remember, but are we allowed to put a garage on the back of a house or the side, or like what he's talking about would be a pole barn, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, I mean, again, we're not encouraging that.
Right.
You're right.
So whether it's you or, yeah, I'm
Right,
just
no,
saying
no,
that,
and I would go through the proper channels if I
Right.
ever decided to possibly try
Right.
that or something like
but
that.
that's what we're thinking, right? Is that, you know, we don't really want to encourage where
Yeah.
we have big pole barns in our residential
And if
district.
that's not something we want to encourage, then maybe there should be an exemption for corner lots. You know?
Or what is it for? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Is it
sure.
like, I mean, I guess I'm just like,
Well, for him to build a garage is different than building a porta lot. You know,
Correct.
If he's built a garage on the backside of his house, going out to the road there, it would be totally different. So we'd have to write,
And it wouldn't matter.
right,
how
so I
old
mean,
it's
those
Yeah.
would definitely
Pole
need to be a
barn or
special
stick.
Yeah, right.
You
situation.
can't afford to build a stick garage anymore. I mean, you
That's
do what you can do, but most buildings are pole barns now
Yeah.
that go up. And if they keep all the metal on it, yeah, they look like a pole barn. But
Right.
There's a lot of people that side them and do
Right.
things with them. that-
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah,
Really nice.
Right behind me, when, I can't remember what his name was now, when they put that pole barn up, they had to get the variance from the city to put the pole barn behind the
Right,
house and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's stayed off the same driveway,
Yeah.
but it's still there, you know?
My daughter and her husband have a pole barn that's nicer than the house. Sorry.
My garage is a pole barn, but
Yeah.
it's sided the same with the house.
Right. you
Bigger
got-
than my house.
Oh, yeah,
you
it
got
looks nice.
More room there than you do inside your house.
A lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
The Where west that ends in the Grand River, the yellow house.
Oh, okay.
You know, what we could do next meeting too, if you guys wanted to take a look around the city and just kind of point out some examples, I could bring my computer, we could pop on the GIS and take a look at those lots, you know, all together, kind of see, you know, just what practically makes sense on some different examples, if that would help.
I still haven't done the field trip with all the park
No.
ideas.
Okay.
I still
Did
would
you
like
see
to.
my cheesy?
Yes,
map? Oh my,
I did, but I'd like to group up with one or two of you and just walk it and look at it, drive to an area and take a peek.
Can't drive for this. Even though people think they should be, I watch them every Sunday. Come down here and four-wheel drive stuff, pulling kids sleds and everything through the park.
really?
Nice.
We can do that? Because I.
No, we
I'm just
can't
kidding.
do it.
I know, I'm
Yeah, that's
just
when you pull the
kidding.
phone out, hey.
I had the phone out, but I couldn't get a picture of them.
Reckless behavior. Well, somebody posted on the page, kids that were throwing rocks or something, remember that, by the car wash? That was like last week.
Busting glass.
Yeah, busting glass.
Which car wash that one? or that one?
Marks downtown behind the bar.
Yeah, your parents should be proud of your kids and put a picture of them and blew it up. These are the kids that are throwing rocks. Good job,
I
parents.
missed that.
Okay,
Yeah.
anything else? Do we have any other, so
Check
do
it
we
out.
need, we don't need a motion, Mike, you're gonna, we'll do field trips on our own, come up with examples.
That one's just kids, that's why you interrupted.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
And we just put that on there because it seemed like an item of interest and,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, this is the place to talk about it.
Right. Yeah, and it was good too. That's good.
all right, anything else? Any other items?
I was just gonna real quick. Me and Paula signed me up for a training next month. It's a couple training things. It's planning and zoning essentials. A bunch of other things, but I thought if I'm on the ZBA and the planning commission and city council, that it might be beneficial. So, but she said that I'll come back in April and let you guys know what
I told her
what I
she needed
learned.
to provide.
She's like, you're
report.
gonna have
There
to
you
let
go.
them know what you learned, so.
It's poor, heck, she's gonna have to teach us that.
Well, and you know, we did that training like a year ago and we just haven't got back to it. If there's, you know, something that, you know, you guys want to do a training on, we
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah,
So,
good.
and we had kind of a few busy months, but
Right.
now, you know, last winter we had like a couple lulls and so if we have that, we can, you know, spend the evening doing the training, so.
Would it be beneficial going like someone like me who's new, going through just generic building codes, or, you know, things like that, that would benefit us in our decision making?
Yeah, he was not on when I did that other training, Michael. Well, it is taped on here.
Okay.
We should be able to go to the city's website, and look at that, but yeah, I mean, there's just like, we can do whatever you guys want. So, you know, if there's something that, you know, I think the night that we did a training was, we just went through, like what a special land use was gonna look like and, you know, how to
Plan
use,
reviews.
yep, how to use the, zoning ordinance, you know, to look up something. So,
We actually did learn something.
yeah.
We threw that around pretty good that night too. So. Yippee skippies.
Yep.
Throw some food in there. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure
I
they're gonna
cook.
send you some materials with that training.
Yeah,
Might
I
be a good
just-
idea just
Yeah,
to
I
put it
got
out.
some.
I just got a
Towels
stack,
Oh, okay.
Shoulder and stuff to cook
a
Thursday.
stack of study guides.
Oh, they already sent them to you.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah, they
cool.
even sent me the little completion things already, because it's all virtual, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable with those yet. But, yeah,
Okay. So you'll provide a report
oh, yeah,
in
in April.
We have a whiteboard. She
There you
can
go.
do a
That's
nice
right.
presentation
Right.
for us.
I see
She
a
signed up for
projector.
quite a few,
I
and
was-
her eyes aren't falling out of
We
her
did,
head.
I know,
PowerPoint.
like, it's all of March, I swear.
I told you that, I warned you.
No, I know, it's fine. It's right in the midst of me starting to plant, so it'll be all right.
When we see her picture on
It'll be good.
Facebook, she says, I'm melting.
We're missing one of the two.
Going to Florida.
All right. Anything else?
Anybody else want to take a training, let me know.
I mean, here's a list of them.
It sounds like you've real encouraged over it.
Is that the one?
I
you
think I'm
sent
signed
out?
up for almost all of them.
You sent
Nice.
some. Somebody said something. else.
Okay, send an email if you want.
Yeah.
I got one.
You're good updates.
I am.
Okay,
I make a motion to adjourn.
do we have a second?
Second.
All right, the meeting is adjourned. Are we good with quarter review? Is that, you got it?
Yep.
Cool,
You should be outside.
perfect.
Yeah, that's right.
Someone
First
did
is
over
the-
The spring, baby.
there. So I'm not gonna be here for that.
Yeah, I told her.
Yeah, okay. Can't be
Should have been
here.
done
So-
December 5th, but I'm too nice of a guy.
Yeah,
I think we had reference to something tonight.
Oh,
I'm
I
just curious, is this,
I'm gonna
Did
miss
we
yelling
allow
at
that?
them middle schoolers.
No, that was not allowed.
that's an issue for today, I just took a picture.
It's
No,
gonna-
Why is that?
And I know
Two
you're
sets in front of- I recognize the building.
It was specific. It was specifically mentioned. that they could-
next to it.
Yeah, that
was
there.
there
My
tonight.
voice.
It was specifically mentioned no
Microphone.
parking.
And
And that's
No,
probably
no.
that same egress and egress.
Yeah, no,
You
I
know
know.
the scariest
Because
thing
it was
about my
sitting there when I
job?
come home from grocery shopping today.
But it's been
People
several times.
That I don't know their
Oh,
names
yeah.
are the good ones. It's the bad ones I know their names.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
terrible.
that's
It
fine.
is just terrible. If you really think about
We're
it.
in a
Yeah.
meeting, anybody can be.
It's
I
just
was
the
well
ones that you
known.
should be giving a pat on the
I was
back. You
very
don't even know
well
their
known.
names.
Is that off now?
I walked into the school.
So I don't-
Mary
They
was like,
muted themselves.
"Tina!"
Before the meeting.
Is that my problem? Everybody knows my name?
Ah,
I'll walk into the school and Mary Lou's like, you gonna do anything today?
Clear that.
She's still, after all these years, getting on my butt. What did you say, John?
I said, is that my problem? Everybody knows my name?
Yeah, 'cause you're in trouble all the time.
How is Mary Lou?
Mary Lou's doing